Hey there, in this video, we're going to go over the qEEG Summary Assessment Report, also known as the client report. Page 1. Now, before we even get into this, I want to let you know that I've never seen a perfect brain. Any qEEG that we have done has some level of dysregulation. When you see red dots, do not panic. It's just part of the process. Our software and hardware is very sensitive. It's meant to be used in this therapeutic and a clinical setting to detect the things that are affecting people's lives. So as we go through this, keep in mind this is just measuring the levels of dysregulation in the brain. How it manifests in each person is very individualized depending on their upbringing, their habits, their environment, their current stress levels, etc. Just their attitude too. So again, we are going to see dysregulation in all of these maps. How you handle it is based on a lot of different factors. So let's just get into this. The client map, picture of the head in the upper left, is going to show us the 4 most dysregulated sites with your eyes open. This is usually a starting point for neurofeedback. It always is going to show 4 in red as the most dysregulated sites with your eyes open. This doesn't mean these are the only dysregulated sites. It's very limited on what this is showing us. It's just a starting point for neurofeedback. In the upper right, the cognitive efficiency section, we are looking at the level of cognitive efficiency. The meter goes from 0, poor, to 10, good, and this is 0 to 100% of your possible cognitive efficiency. Your CEC column here is how you self-reported on the intake questionnaires and rated your level of challenge with each of these areas. Red is high challenge, moderate will be yellow, and green is low. So in this example, the person indicated they have a moderate level of attention challenges. The EEG is confirming, yes, there's a high level of dysregulation in those areas of your brain most responsible for attention. So it's confirming all of the yellows and reds are matches, meaning there are areas of dysregulation in those specific regions of your brain most responsible for each of these symptoms. Across the board, these are matches. They've got a high level of reading comprehension challenge, and the EEG is confirming there's a moderate level of dysregulation in that area. Now you have one here where they are rating, I've got a high level of math challenges, and the EEG column is saying, well, the areas in your brain most responsible for math comprehension are pretty well regulated. So likely this person is experiencing that challenge as a result of one of these other areas, other networks that are off in the brain, maybe the attention, maybe the memory area, maybe one of the other processing areas, rather than the specific area most responsible for math comprehension. We go down into the next sections and we're looking at a focus, mood, and relaxation titles right here. These are global measures. These are bigger overall patterns in the brain. We're looking at the power of certain brainwave activity component bands. We're looking at the left to right communication and the balance between all of that. So we're looking at more global patterns in the brain rather than the specific networks in this section. The focus meter is driven by slow wave activity, or not enough of the fast wave, basically being more predominant primarily. And when somebody has any level of dysregulation on the focus meter, they sometimes experience things like inattention, impulsivity, maybe emotional reactivity. Things like that can start to surface, hyperactivity and cognitive issues. If they have any level of dysregulation in that area. And this goes from 0 to 10, which is 0 to 100% probability that they suffer from that type of dysregulation. So in this example, this person is just slightly less than a 40% probability that they may suffer from some of those related symptoms with regards to focus issues. The mood regulation meter, this one is driven by our alpha brainwaves, which should be predominant on the right side of the brain. That's the primary driver. Anytime any of the alpha is not properly ordered, that starts to drive this meter up. And then there are secondary and tertiary things that contribute to it as well. But basically, when anyone has dysregulation on this meter, they tend to struggle with mood regulation issues, maybe be hard on themselves, tend to withdraw, ruminate, constantly going over a negative scenario in their head, having trouble letting that go. Certain things like that, maybe easily irritated or agitated, anything with regards to mood regulation. So we call that the mood meter. In this example, this person has about a 30% probability that they suffer from that type of dysregulation and therefore potential symptoms related. The relaxation meter is driven by our fast wave activity. Beta should be predominant on the left side of the brain. Anytime that is not, you start to drive this meter up, and then there are other factors that go into it. But basically, the person that has any level of dysregulation on this meter may suffer from the ability to relax their central nervous system when it needs to relax. That means a sense of restlessness, sometimes sleep issues, maybe migraines, anxiety, panic attacks, worry, things like that come into play when anyone shows dysregulation on this relaxation global measure meter. In this example, the person's over a 90% probability that they suffer from this type of dysregulation and potentially some of those associated symptoms. Once we pass those global measure meters, we now have a box that says physical. In this box is going to be any item that you have self-reported that you have a challenge with, and the EEG confirms, yes, there's dysregulation in those areas most responsible for those. And that is back to those specific networks and specific areas of the brain again. And again, any matches in here that you've self-reported you have a challenge with and the EEG confirms, yes, there's a physical reason. There's dysregulation in that area most responsible for that symptom. That's going to be placed in this box. The next box will have all of the other ones where somebody self-reported. You've self-reported that you have these challenges. However, the EEG is saying those specific networks of your brain are looking pretty good, which means it may not be physically from that specific area of the brain, but rather from one of the global measures related to mood regulation and relaxation. So maybe it's a more of a depression or anxiety or a psychogenic reason that you are experiencing that. The other reason you could have a lot in this box titled mental is if you're not sleeping well. Everything gets harder if you're not getting restorative sleep. And sometimes people think they're sleeping long, but sometimes that sleep cycle isn't very restorative, and you'll end up with a lot in this particular box. So that's the basics on that part of the report. It'll also kick out some supplements based on the findings in your map. We didn't do a blood test, but it's some recommendations based on the pattern in your map report you could look into. And then the narrative gets into the specific details that we were just talking about. It's going to explain in more detail what may manifest if somebody has dysregulation in the mood, relaxation, or focus global measure meters, and explains what contributes to that from a brainwave standpoint. And then it'll kick out specific areas that the person has self-reported they have a challenge with, and the EEG analysis has confirmed, yes, there's dysregulation in each of these areas. So it's really important to read through all of this, even though it looks like tiny print. Very valuable information on how it may affect you in different areas of your life, not just in the classroom, but in relationships, etc. So I encourage everyone to read through that narrative part as well. So that is the summary of your client qEEG map report. So what do you do with this information? Now, the therapist, along with the ISI and the other intake assessments, can really do a good job using this to guide their therapeutic approach. And otherwise, when you see this many matches, like in this example with the self-reporting side by side with what's going on in the EEG, their actual brainwave activity, then likely they're a good candidate for neurofeedback. Any degree that you can start to coach the brainwave patterns towards the norm, some of these things will fall by the wayside, and you can better regulate the brain. People can function better. So you take a look at this report, you see the self-reporting and what is being measured in the qEEG map report correlate, and then you can proceed with the neurofeedback process. And the goal of all neurofeedback is to help the brain better regulate. It's to guide these percentages towards the norm. It's not that you're going to turn every dot green and every meter all the way back to zero. That's not realistic. I've never seen a perfect brain map.
However, again, any degree that you can start to coach the brain towards the more normal patterns, and the person's going to have more success in life. So thank you for your attention with this. I hope that helps out a lot.